Cole Hartman stood at the bow, hands in his pockets, custom Italian shoes too pristine for the worn deck beneath him. His crisp white shirt barely wrinkled despite the coastal breeze, and his jaw, shaven, square, resolved, was clenched tight. Ahead, Tybee Island stretched like a memory he hadn't meant to revisit. Bright beach homes, lazy palms, seagulls suspended in sun-glazed air. This wasn't a vacation. It never was. He checked his watch for the third time in 5 minutes. A silver timepiece worth more than the average car. But what did it matter? He was early, as always. The deal that brought him here, some final stage negotiation over a parcel of land near the dunes, was set to close in 48 hours. He'd finish it, shake hands, and leave. That was the plan. Quick, clean, no time for distractions. The dock worker extended a hand to help him off the boat. Cole barely noticed. His mind was already elsewhere. Contracts, numbers, expansion plans for Hartman Capital. The resort sent a golf cart to meet him, an eager young concierge driving like it was a Formula One track. Cole didn't speak. He didn't need to. His reputation traveled faster than his private plane. They arrived at the Seagrass Inn Villas, a high-end coastal retreat with clapboard siding, wraparound porches, and hammocks swinging between palmettos. It was the kind of place that smelled like warm cedar, salt, and money. Couples in linen laughed over champagne beneath sun-faded umbrellas. Somewhere, a wedding rehearsal was unfolding on the south lawn. Music drifted in and out. A string quartet tuning, the faint clink of glass. Cole didn't look. Weddings weren't for men like him. Inside the main lobby, cool air kissed his skin. A tall vase of hydrangeas loomed beside the marble reception desk. The resort manager greeted him personally, eyes sharp and voice hushed. "Mr. Hartman, your villa's ready. Oceanfront, as requested. Private entrance. And we've arranged for complete discretion." Cole gave a single nod. "We've also provided access to the executive boardroom should you need to work during your stay." "I always need to work," he said, voice flat. The manager handed him a digital keycard. "Villa 3B, right this way." As he followed the staffer toward a winding path flanked by sea oats and polished stone lanterns, Cole's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. His assistant, of course. "Status update. The Delaney acquisition has a new clause." "Do you want to review it now?" He ignored it. For once, just once, he wanted to breathe without someone needing something from him. Without the weight of empires balanced on his signature. But breathing, as it turned out, felt foreign. He exhaled anyway, forced and shallow. As they reached the villa, the manager stopped. "There's a wedding this weekend on the main lawn, some slight shuffling of rooms, but no disruption expected." Cole didn't react. "As long as I have quiet." "Oh, absolutely. You'll barely know they're here." Cole scanned the area briefly. A burst of laughter came from the other side of the hedgerow. Women in pastel dresses rehearsing steps on a white runner. Children chasing bubbles that caught the sunlight and exploded mid-air. He paused for a beat longer than he meant to. Something tugged, a pressure in his chest, uninvited and irritating. He shoved it down and stepped into the villa. Inside, the space was all muted luxury, sand-colored couches, ocean-toned accents, the faint scent of lemongrass diffused through the air. He set his bag down with precision, removed his blazer, and walked to the patio doors. The ocean stretched out endlessly, indifferent. Waves curled and unfurled like pages turning in a story he hadn't written. He watched them for a long moment, alone. Then, quietly to no one, he said, "What are you even doing here, Hartman?" He didn't mean Tybee. He meant this ache in his gut he couldn't shake lately, the silence of his penthouse, the emails that never stopped. The way his father used to say, "You build walls so high, son, one day you'll forget what they're for." A knock jolted him from thought. He opened the door to find the same manager, apologetic. "Mr. Hartman, I'm terribly sorry. There was a system glitch. It appears 2 keycards were assigned to the same villa by accident. I've already fixed it, but we just wanted to confirm everything's now secured exclusively for you." Cole didn't blink. "Anyone else come in?" "No, sir. A guest briefly entered but realized the error and left." "Again, our deepest apologies." Cole waved him off and closed the door. He walked through the villa again, slower this time. Everything looked untouched. Still, he noticed a faint scent, something not from the resort, vanilla and almond. Familiar. He narrowed his eyes, and then from the patio next door, he heard it. 2 small voices giggling. One shouted, "Mom, look! I'm gonna do a cartwheel." He moved toward the window before he could think better of it. Through the sheer curtains he saw them, 2 boys, maybe 6 or 7, tumbling across the sand in matching seersucker shorts, joy unfiltered and pure. And then a woman stepped into view. His breath caught, froze. Elena. Her hair was longer now, curled from the humidity. She wore a simple sundress, the hem catching the breeze as she laughed. God, she laughed, and walked toward the boys. She hadn't seen him yet. And he hadn't seen her in over 7 years. 7 years since Atlanta. 7 years since he left without a proper goodbye. 7 years of buried what-ifs, unanswered messages, and a gnawing hollow he blamed on everything else. But now, here she was, at a wedding. With 2 boys, and those boys, those eyes. He stumbled back from the curtain. No. It couldn't be. Could it? The questions hit him like cold water. Why was she here? Why now? Were those his? He sat down, hard, on the edge of the bed, the quiet roar of the ocean behind him suddenly deafening. The room, the villa, the entire weekend, all of it felt like a setup from the universe he didn't believe in. For the first time in years, Cole Hartman didn't know what to do. And for the first time ever, he wasn't sure if walking away would be an option. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1 to let me know. If not, comment 2. Your thought matter to me either way. Elena Brooks knelt beside the sandcastle, brushing her fingers across the top of one of the turrets. It was leaning slightly, and Leo, ever the perfectionist, was staring at it with narrowed eyes. "It's okay, buddy," she said gently, pressing it back into place. "It doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful." He looked up at her, cheeks sun-kissed and freckled, then nodded solemnly before darting off to collect more wet sand. Aiden was already halfway down the shore, yelling something about finding the perfect shell for the front gate. Elena sat back on her heels and sighed, eyes drifting out toward the water. The waves rolled in soft, rhythmic pulses. It was peaceful here, quieter than Savannah, simpler. She had hoped this weekend would feel like a break from everything, a chance to breathe. But now the air felt heavy. She hadn't seen him, not fully, not face to face. But she'd caught the glimpse, that profile, the way he stood, shoulders squared like the world owed him something. It had been years, but she would know Cole Hartman's silhouette anywhere. She'd looked away immediately. Gracie's voice snapped her back. "Hey, Earth to Elena," her friend called, walking barefoot across the sand, clipboard in one hand, phone in the other. "You good?" Elena plastered on a smile. Yeah. Just watching the boys burn off energy before the rehearsal. Gracie squinted, lowering her sunglasses. You sure? You've got that storm brewing look in your eyes. And I know that look. Elena hesitated. Then she said it aloud, the words tasting strange and raw. I think Cole's here. Gracie froze mid-step. Wait, Cole Hartman, that Cole? Elena nodded. A long pause followed. Gracie lowered herself onto the edge of a beach chair beside her, clipboard forgotten. Are you serious? How do you know? I saw him from the villa balcony, just for a second. But it was him. She pressed her fingers into her temples. He hasn't changed much. Still looks like he stepped out of a magazine ad for executive success. Gracie let out a low whistle. Wow. Okay. Wow. Elena watched the boys in silence for a moment. I didn't think I'd ever see him again. Gracie glanced over at her. Do you think he knows about Aiden and Leo? No. He can't. Elena's voice cracked, barely above a whisper. He left before I knew I was pregnant. And by the time I found out, he was unreachable. No forwarding number, no replies. I figured he didn't want to be found. Gracie looked down, then back at her. You never tried again? Eleanor's smile was tight. I tried, Gracie. I called, emailed. I even sent a letter to his office in Atlanta. I never heard a word. Gracie nodded slowly, then exhaled. Do you want him to know now? The question hung in the air like a storm cloud. Elena didn't answer. That night, as the rehearsal dinner kicked off in the garden strung with lanterns and fairy lights, Elena stood at the edge of the gathering, sipping lemonade and trying to keep her mind off of Cole. The boys were with Walt, who'd offered to keep them entertained with ghost stories and s'mores while she helped with last-minute wedding details. She felt grateful for the distance. Grateful and uneasy. Across the patio, laughter bubbled up from a group of out-of-town guests. Elena's eyes scanned the crowd instinctively, and then stopped. Cole. He was standing near the edge of the terrace, his back to the water, dressed down for the first time she could remember. Khakis. Buttoned down, sleeves rolled up, but it was the way he looked at everything that threw her. Not confident, not commanding, but distracted. Like he was scanning the room for something he wasn't sure he wanted to find. His gaze swept past her, then returned, landed. Held, their eyes locked, and suddenly time dropped out. She couldn't breathe. He didn't move, just stared. Recognition, confusion, something deeper flickering across his face. Then he took one slow step forward. Elena? His voice was quieter than she remembered. Rougher, almost hesitant. She nodded. Cole. He blinked, and for a second it seemed like he couldn't find the next word. His eyes darted over her face, her dress, her sandals dug into the sand, like he was trying to match this version of her with someone he used to know. You're here. Yes, she said simply. He looked away for a moment, then back. I didn't know, Neither did I, she cut in, voice soft but steady. The silence that followed felt heavy with all the things they weren't saying. You look... He stopped himself. You look good. Elena gave a small, polite smile. So do you. Another beat of silence. I'm not here for the wedding, he said finally, as if that explained anything. Business? The resort. A land deal. She nodded, not because she cared, but because it was easier than asking why it mattered. And you? He asked, eyes still searching hers. I'm here with Gracie, she said. She's the bride. Something shifted in his posture. His mouth opened slightly, like he might say something else. But then Gracie appeared beside Elena, holding a tray of desserts, eyes wide as saucers. "Oh, Cole," she said, a little too brightly. "I didn't know you two knew each other." Elena flinched inwardly. Cole looked between them. "We did." "A long time ago," he said. Gracie's smile faltered just enough. "Right. Well, small world, huh?" She quickly handed Elena a plate and disappeared like a magician dodging awkwardness. Cole took a breath. "Elena, I didn't know how to reach you. Back then." "You didn't try," she said, too quickly. His jaw tensed. "I was busy," he said quietly. "We were all busy," she answered. "I still wrote to you." He looked away. "I didn't see those, not in time." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "There's always time, Cole." "When someone matters." Another long pause. He stepped forward, almost uncertain. "Can we talk?" "Somewhere quieter?" Elena's grip on the plate tightened. Before she could answer, a soft voice called from behind the hedge. "Mommy!" Her breath hitched. The sound of her son's voice was always enough to melt everything inside her. She turned to see Aiden running toward her, cheeks flushed with excitement. Cole turned, following her gaze. And then he saw him, the boy, his hair dark and windswept. His eyes, hazel, sharp, exact. Cole's entire body froze. Elena didn't say anything. She couldn't. Aiden reached her side, wrapped his arms around her waist, and looked up at Cole with innocent curiosity. Cole stared. He didn't speak, but he didn't need to. His face said everything. Aiden's small hand clung to the edge of Elena's sundress, his eyes flicking between her and Cole. The boy's expression was pure curiosity, untouched by the tension that had sucked the air from the garden. He tilted his head slightly, as if studying a stranger who looked vaguely familiar, like a forgotten face in an old photo. Cole didn't move. He couldn't. His throat had gone dry, his legs heavy. There were things he had expected to encounter on this trip. Contract negotiations, luxury clients, maybe a delayed flight. But not this. Not a child. Not her child. Not a child who looked so much like him. "Is he—" Cole began, voice barely audible, but Elena cut in sharply. "Don't." He turned to her, startled by the sharpness in her tone. "Not here," she said, softer this time, but firm. Her eyes didn't waver. Cole swallowed hard. "No," she said again, this time with finality. Aiden tugged gently at her hand. "Mommy, can we go find Leo now?" "Walt said he was showing him a crab shell." Elena nodded, brushing a hand over her son's hair. "In just a minute, sweetheart." Aiden looked at Cole again, then leaned closer to his mother. "Who's that man?" Elena froze. The question, so simple, so innocent, punched the breath from her chest. She crouched down beside her son. "He's just someone I used to know." Aiden studied her, then nodded with the kind of trust only a child could give. No questions, just belief. "I'll wait over there," he said, pointing to the lit path that led to the marsh deck. As he walked away, Cole exhaled, shoulders collapsing slightly. "Elena," he said. Her name sounded different now. Not distant, not from memory. It had weight. She crossed her arms. "You weren't supposed to be here." "I didn't know you would be either." "That's not what I meant." He blinked. "Then what do you mean?" Elena looked at him, really looked at him. Same eyes, same voice, Same magnetic pull that once made her feel like she was the only person in any room. But now, that same pull twisted her stomach. "I mean, I was supposed to be past this," she whispered. Cole's expression softened. "You have every right to be angry." Her laugh was short. "Angry? Cole, I was angry a long time ago. That's gone now. What's left is just reality." He stepped closer. "So tell me what that reality is." "You left," she said simply. "You said you had to go close a deal in Seattle. I didn't hear from you again. No calls. No letters. Just silence. I didn't mean for it to happen that way." His voice cracked to the edges. "I got caught up in something big, and when I finally came up for air, I didn't know how to come back." "You didn't know how," she repeated slowly, eyes narrowing. "So you didn't." He had no defense, none that would change what had happened. "I tried, Elena," he said. "You have to believe that." "No," she snapped, but quietly. "I don't have to believe anything. Not anymore." He looked away, hands sliding into his pockets, eyes on the sand below. "I would have been there if I'd known." "But you didn't ask," she replied. "And you didn't wait to find out." Silence spread between them again, louder than any argument could have been. Finally, Cole glanced up, voice raw. "He's mine, isn't he?" Her breath caught. "And the other one too?" Her gaze didn't move. "Twins," he said under his breath, like the reality was just now settling in. "You had twins?" Elena took a step back, arms tightening around herself as though holding in 7 years of silence. "Cole, I raised them on my own. I was scared." "I was exhausted, and I was so unbelievably angry. But most of all, I was alone." He winced. The word hit harder than he expected. "They're not a secret. I never treated them like shame. But I promised myself that unless you were ready to show up, not just show up but stay, I wouldn't let you near them." He nodded slowly, a deep breath rising in his chest. "I get it. I do." "Do you?" she whispered. Cole didn't answer right away. He looked out toward the deck, where Aiden now stood, swinging his arms and humming to himself, perfectly content. "I don't know what to say," he admitted. "Then don't say anything," she said, turning slightly. "Go back to your villa. Finish your business trip." "Go back to your world, Cole." She started to walk away, her sandals crunching softly in the sand. "Elena," she paused. "I'm not going anywhere. Not this time." The words landed like a promise, one she didn't dare believe. She turned her head slightly, eyes hard. "You don't get to say that just because you feel guilty. I'm saying it because I'm not the same man I was 7 years ago." She shook her head. "But I am, Cole. I'm the same woman who had to carry the weight of your absence every day. So don't think showing up now makes you a hero." He stepped toward her, slower now. Measured. "I'm not asking to be a hero. I'm asking for the chance to try." She held his gaze. For a moment she didn't speak. Then her voice came, softer than before. "We'll see." And with that she walked away, toward her son, toward the life she had built without him. Cole stood there long after she disappeared down the path, the breeze lifting his collar, the scent of ocean mixing with the faintest trace of vanilla. Everything had changed, and this time he wasn't walking away. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1 to let me know. If not, comment 2. Your thought mattered to me either way. The sky over Tybee Island had turned the color of burnt apricot, bleeding gold into the horizon as the last light of day slipped beneath the waves. Strings of white bulbs blinked to life across the lawn of the Seagrass Inn, casting a warm, fairy tale glow over the setup for Gracie's wedding. Tables were draped in soft linens, centerpieces of wildflowers danced in the breeze, and the soft notes of a cello rehearsal floated from the patio. But beneath the romantic haze, something unspoken pulsed under the surface. Eleanor could feel it. She stood near the folding chairs arranged in neat rows, fidgeting with a crooked ribbon on the aisle runner. Her hands were steady, but inside, her heart twisted with every breath. Cole was here. Not just on the island, not just at the same resort. He was present. Around every corner, in every breath. And now, it felt like everything she'd tried to protect was one question away from unraveling. "Do you need me to retie that?" Gracie's voice broke through behind her. Eleanor didn't turn. "No, it's fine. Just crooked." Gracie stepped beside her, brushing her shoulder gently. "You okay?" Elena hesitated. He saw Aiden. Gracie's breath caught. "And?" He knew. Oh. That one word carried the weight of 7 years. He asked. Eleanor added quietly. Didn't demand. Didn't yell. Just asked. Like he already knew the answer. Gracie touched her arm. "What did you say?" I didn't have to say anything. They stood in silence for a moment, watching as a breeze rustled the linen napkins. "I thought I was prepared for something like this," Eleanor said. "But there's no version of this that doesn't hurt." Gracie was quiet, then said, "He looks like he's trying." Elena turned sharply. "Trying what?" "To not run," Gracie replied. "To face it. To stay." Elena looked away. "I don't know if that's enough." Before Gracie could answer, one of the servers jogged up, out of breath. "We have a situation." Gracie blinked. "What kind of situation?" "There's a leak in the outdoor kitchen tent. The caterer slipped. Nothing serious, but he can't continue. And the backup oven's out. Chef says we're going to have to delay or pivot." Elena's head dropped. Gracie rubbed her forehead. "Perfect. We're 24 hours from the wedding, and I'm about to serve peanut butter and jelly." "I'll help," Eleanor said immediately. "Whatever you need." Gracie gave her a grateful smile. "Thanks. I'll take all the hands I can get." As they moved toward the banquet area, Cole appeared, holding a small folding chair with a broken leg. "Found the culprit," he said, raising an eyebrow. "Wobbly front row." Gracie's eyebrows shot up. "Cole Hartman doing manual labor?" "Didn't have that on my wedding bingo card." Cole gave a dry smile. "Turns out my boardroom experience didn't prepare me for ribbon knots and cracked folding chairs." Eleanor tried not to look at him. Tried. Gracie's phone buzzed again. She glanced down and groaned. "The sound guy's running late." "I'll be back." She turned and disappeared toward the main house, leaving Elena and Cole standing by the dismantled ceremony arch, the silence between them louder than any wedding band. Cole looked down at the chair in his hands, then back at her. "Elena," he said quietly, "I meant what I said." "I'm not going anywhere." She crossed her arms, squinting toward the beach. "You say that now, but what happens when your deal closes? When you're on a plane back to the city, and this is just a memory? I'm not here for a deal anymore." She turned sharply. "What?" He hesitated. But then I saw you. I saw him. Everything changed." "Don't say that like it's some revelation," she snapped. "Like realizing you have children is supposed to earn you points. It doesn't. It's just reality." Cole nodded, absorbing the words. "I know," he said, "and I'm not asking for credit. I'm asking for time. For space. To show up. To prove I'm not the man who left." She looked at him then. Really looked. For the first time, his eyes didn't hold that executive gleam. There was something softer. Something tired. Something real. "You don't get to undo 7 years," she said. "You don't get to step in and fix it with good intentions." "I don't want to fix it," he said. "I want to be part of it, even if it's messy." She felt her throat tighten, but before she could reply, a voice rang out. "Hey!" "Smile." They both turned. A woman with a large camera stood a few feet away, mid-snap. "You two looked so intense. I figured it was a moment." Elena blinked, stunned. "We're doing behind-the-scenes candids for the wedding," the photographer explained cheerfully. "Don't worry, it's just for the bride's private album, unless you want a copy." Before either of them could respond, she was gone, on to the next couple, the next photo. Elena felt a chill crawl up her arms. Cole rubbed the back of his neck. "That's going to be awkward." "Very," she muttered. She turned to go, then paused. "Cole?" He looked at her. "I haven't told them." "Aiden and Leo. They don't know who you are." "Not really." His face sobered. "I understand. And if you push too fast, say too much." "I won't," he said quickly. "I'll wait, however long it takes." Elena nodded once, slowly. "Then we'll see." She walked back toward the reception tables, her heart racing. By the time she reached Gracie, the first flickers of trouble had already begun. Phones were buzzing. Servers whispering. A hotel staff member darted up the stairs with urgency. Elena frowned. "What's going on?" Gracie's face was pale. She held up her phone. "This." On the screen was a grainy photo, taken from across the lawn, of Cole and Elena by the arch, eyes locked, tension clear. The caption read, "Billionaire CEO spotted in intimate moment at local wedding. Who's the mystery woman?" And just like that, the storm had begun. The morning sun rose slow and honey-colored over Tybee Island, but there was no peace in Elena's chest. She stood barefoot in the villa's kitchen, her hands wrapped around a coffee mug that had long since gone cold. The boys were still asleep, tangled in cotton sheets, the sounds of their soft breathing drifting down the hallway, like a lullaby from a life she used to know. Quiet, steady, untouched by chaos. But that life was gone now. Her phone buzzed again on the counter. Dozens of notifications, mentions, tagged photos. A storm swelling on the other side of the screen. She picked it up with hesitant fingers. A headline stared back at her. "Powerhouse CEO Cole Hartman, seen cozy with local woman at Georgia resort. Is he hiding a secret family?" Her heart clenched. They had only stood together for a few moments. No touching. No dramatic gestures. But the photograph had caught something. The tilt of her head. The intensity in Cole's eyes. The closeness. And now the internet was spinning their own version of the truth. She tapped open the article. Her name wasn't mentioned. Not yet. But it was only a matter of time. Already people were commenting. Those kids looked just like him. Why hasn't he ever talked about having a family? Another billionaire scandal waiting to blow. Elena set the phone down, harder than she meant to. She stared out the kitchen window, her reflection faint in the glass. For so long she'd protected her sons from the world beyond Savannah, kept their lives simple, their names private. And now a single photograph had cracked the barrier she'd worked so hard to build. Footsteps behind her. Small, soft. "Mom?" She turned. Aidan stood in the doorway, rubbing one eye, his hair sticking up like a halo. "Hey, buddy," she said, trying to smile. He padded toward her and climbed into one of the bar stools. "Can we go to the beach before breakfast?" She hesitated. "Maybe a little later. How about waffles first?" "Okay." He swung his legs, watching her. "Is that man gonna be there again?" Elena froze. "What man?" "The one from the wedding tent. The one who looked at you like he knew your secrets." Her heart stuttered. She forced a small laugh. "That's quite the observation." Aidan shrugged. "Walt says I see things most people miss." Eleanor leaned across the counter and brushed his hair from his eyes. "You do." He tilted his head. "Is he your friend?" Eleanor paused, then whispered, "He used to be." Aidan didn't press, but his eyes lingered on her, searching for pieces she didn't have words for. That afternoon, the resort buzzed like a hive. The usual calm had been replaced by an invisible tension, whispers in hallways, glances that lingered too long, staff moving faster than usual. Elena kept the boys close. She cancelled their group activity at the nature hut. Skipped lunch on the boardwalk. She didn't want them recognized, not until she knew what was coming. As she passed the front lobby with Gracie, her friend pulled her aside. "We need to talk." They stepped into a side corridor, out of earshot. "Someone from the Savannah Times called the front desk asking about you," Gracie said quietly. "By name." Eleanor's stomach dropped. "How?" "I don't know. Someone probably leaked it." "A guest? A server? There's chatter that you're the mystery woman in the photo." Elena rubbed her temples. "This was supposed to be your wedding weekend." Gracie waved a hand. "Forget the wedding for a second. Elena, this is serious." "The press is sniffing around, and if they find out about Aidan and Leo—" "I know," Elena cut in, her voice thin. "Believe me, I know." Gracie hesitated, then added, "You need to talk to him." "Cole. Figure out what he's planning to do, because this won't stay quiet for long." Elena nodded. Later that evening, she found him on the edge of the dock, the sunset casting streaks of fire across the water. He didn't hear her approach, not until her voice broke the silence. "So, we're internet famous now." Cole turned slowly. His expression was unreadable, but there was something in his eyes. Regret, maybe. Or guilt, dressed in hope. "I saw it," he said. "First thing this morning." "And?" "I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure if I had the right." Eleanor crossed her arms. "The right to speak or the right to care?" "Both." The air between them shifted, heavy with unsaid truths. She stepped closer, but not too close. "They know my name now. It won't be long before someone connects the dots. I have a job, a life, a reputation. My boys have never even had their picture posted publicly." "I didn't plan this," he said, jaw tight. "But I'm not going to hide either." Her breath caught. "Hide what, exactly?" He met her eyes. "That they're mine." The words landed hard. There was no drama in the delivery, no flourish, just fact. And still, it knocked the wind out of her. "I don't need you to declare paternity in the middle of a media circus," she said, voice trembling. "I need you to protect them." "I want to," he said. "Tell me how." She stared at him, uncertain. Part of her wanted to scream. Part of her wanted to believe him. "You don't just get to insert yourself now because it's convenient." "It's not convenient," he said, stepping forward. "It's terrifying. I'm trying to figure out how to be a father overnight while the whole world watches. And the only person who knows what's at stake won't let me in." Her eyes burned. He continued, softer now. I missed everything, Elena. Their first steps. First words. I know I don't get a redo, but I'm here now. And I'm not asking for permission to care. Tears welled, but she blinked them back. Then start by staying quiet. Stay out of the spotlight. Don't feed this story. He nodded. Okay. And if you really mean to stay, she added, then you do it for them. Not for redemption. Not for image. For them, he repeated. A gust of wind passed between them. Then let's see what that looks like, she whispered. As she turned to walk away, Cole looked out at the horizon, where the last of the sun dipped beneath the waves. He didn't say it aloud, but he thought it all the same. Let the world watch. He wasn't leaving. Not again. The next morning came with a softness only coastal sunrises knew how to deliver. Golden light seeping through gauzy curtains, birds calling gently from nearby palmettos, the lull of waves teasing the shoreline. But inside Elena's villa, her mind was far from quiet. She stood at the kitchen counter, slicing strawberries for the boys' breakfast, her jaw tight with thought. The night before hadn't erased anything. It hadn't solved what to do next. But it had shifted something. A sentence she couldn't shake. I'm not asking for permission to care. The words had burrowed deep. The part of her that had long accepted doing it all alone now found itself conflicted. The screen door creaked open behind her. Morning, Walt said, stepping inside with a paper bag in one hand and his usual calm etched across his weathered face. Brought biscuits. From Sally's. Still warm. You're a saint, Elena replied, managing a tired smile. He set the bag down and poured himself coffee like he belonged in the rhythm of her kitchen, which he did. He had been her anchor when her world tilted. The man who held the twins when she was too exhausted to stand. The one who showed up with groceries, and later, with wisdom. You didn't sleep, he said. She shook her head. No, not really. He nodded like he already knew. Storm's not outside, is it? She leaned against the counter. The press has quieted. For now. But it's not just that. Walt waited, patient as always. He wants to be involved, she said softly. With the boys. Walt sipped. Figured he would. And part of me, she swallowed, part of me wants to believe him. Do you? I don't know, she whispered. He looked at her, kind but direct. Elena, you're not the same girl who watched him walk away. You're stronger now, smarter, but you're also tired. And scared. That kind of fear can talk louder than your heart. She stared into her coffee like it held the answers. Let him show you who he is now, Walt added. Don't just remember who he was. Before she could respond, Aiden and Leo came barreling into the room, all morning energy and giggles. Leo grabbed Walt's hand immediately. Did you bring the peach muffins too? He asked. Only if I get a hug first. Leo squealed and launched into his arms. Eleanor watched them, heart tugging. Her boys deserved good men in their lives. Good examples. Safe hands. But could Cole be that? That afternoon, the boys begged to go crabbing near the docks. Eleanor hesitated at first. She didn't want to be out in public too long, but Gracie offered to help with the outing, and they bundled the kids into beach clothes and sun hats. What she hadn't expected was Cole already standing at the dock when they arrived, holding 2 small nets in one hand and a cooler in the other. Gracie raised an eyebrow. You invited him? No, Elena murmured, but the twins ran toward him before she could process anything. Aidan reached him first, eyes wide. "Are those for us?" Cole smiled gently. "If you want them." Leo took the net carefully, inspecting it like treasure. "You know how to crab?" "I've read a few books," Cole said, glancing up at Elena. "And I've got YouTube." Aidan grinned. "Let's go." Elena stood frozen for a beat, heart stuck somewhere between annoyance and disbelief. Gracie leaned close. "You should probably say something before he builds a raft and sails off with them." Eleanor rolled her eyes and walked toward Cole. "You didn't ask if this was okay." He turned, tone measured. "You're right. I didn't. I figured they could use some fun." "And you could use a redemption arc," she snapped. His smile faded. "No. Just thought I'd spend time with my kids. No cameras, no headlines. Just this." She exhaled, tension still lingering. "I'm watching you." "I hope so," he said, eyes holding hers. "Because I'm not disappearing this time." Over the next hour, something strange happened. The boys laughed. They shrieked when tiny crabs darted across their pails. They sat cross-legged beside Cole as he tried, awkwardly, to explain how to gently release a crab back into the water. "Like this?" Leo asked, dropping it a little too quickly. "Not exactly," Cole winced. "Gentle hands, buddy." "Let it walk." Elena found herself smiling in spite of herself. She watched as Cole kneeled in the wet sand, letting his $1,000 watch get coated in salt water, just to help Aidan find a shell. Watched him lift Leo onto the dock railing just high enough to see into the water. He was present. Not perfect, but there. Later, they all sat under the pavilion near the dock, eating the leftover biscuits from Walt's bag and drinking lemonade from paper cups. Gracie had stepped away to take a call, and the boys were busy arguing over who caught more. Cole looked over at Elena. "This is the best day I've had in years." She didn't answer right away. "You're good with them," she admitted finally. His face softened. "I'm trying, I'm learning, every second." "They don't know who you are," she added. "Not yet, not completely." "I'll wait," he said, "until you think they're ready." "Until you think they're ready." She studied him for a moment. "You really meant it, didn't you?" Every word. A gust of wind blew her hair into her face. She tucked it behind her ear and looked away. "This doesn't mean I trust you," she said. "I know. It doesn't mean I've forgiven you. I don't expect that. But for today," she said slowly, "they're smiling. And maybe that's enough." He nodded, eyes shining. "It's more than enough." In the distance, Aidan held up a small claw and shouted, "Mom, look! I caught the king of crabs!" Eleanor laughed for real this time. It slipped out before she could stop it, and just for a moment, the future didn't feel so far away. The following day began with soft gray skies and the smell of impending rain drifting in from the coast. Eleanor sat alone on the front porch swing of the villa, her hands wrapped around a warm mug of chamomile tea, legs curled beneath her. She stared at the horizon, but her thoughts were anchored elsewhere. The boys were inside finishing breakfast with Walt. Gracie had taken an early ferry to town to handle a last-minute vendor issue for the wedding. Cole was where? She didn't know. Part of her wondered if he'd show up again today. Another part, the quieter part, hoped he would. She hated that. The door creaked open behind her. "You're brooding," Walt said, stepping outside with a second cup of tea. "I'm thinking." He sat beside her with a low grunt and handed her the cup. "Same thing." She looked at him sideways. "I don't know what to do." Walt leaned back, his gaze steady. You mean about Cole? Elena nodded. He's trying, Walt said. I know. He's showing up. I see that too. But you're still afraid, he added gently. Elena swallowed. They love easily. Aiden and Leo, they attach fast. If I let him in and he walks away again, her voice caught. I don't know how I explain that to them. I don't know how I protect them from it. Walt was quiet for a moment, then said, You don't? Not completely. That's the gamble of family, sweetheart. Even when you build it yourself. She looked at him, pain flickering behind her eyes. You think I should give him a chance? I think you already are. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed on the porch rail. She picked it up, frowning at the unfamiliar number. A text. Hi, I'm at the coffee shop down by the pier. If you're free? Just you. No expectations. Cole. She stared at it for a long time. Then she stood up. 10 minutes later, she pushed open the door to the cafe. The place was small, rustic, the scent of roasted beans and cinnamon pastries filling the air. Locals sipped coffee from mismatched mugs. A guitar hung on the wall next to a framed photo of the pier in a storm. She spotted him in the corner, seated at a two-top table with a half-empty cup and a folded napkin in his hands. He looked up as the bell above the door jingled. He stood as she approached. I wasn't sure if you'd come, he said. I wasn't sure either. They sat. For a while, neither of them spoke. Finally, Cole leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. I'm not going to ask for anything today. I just wanted to tell you something. Elena nodded warily. I've been talking to people, he began. Not my lawyer. Not my assistant. People here. Real people. She raised an eyebrow. I met the innkeeper's husband yesterday. He used to be a teacher. Told me about the years he spent working with kids who had absentee fathers. Said the worst thing wasn't when the dads left. It was when they came back with excuses. Her face stayed still, but her fingers curled around her mug. I don't have an excuse, Elena. I have a past. I have choices I regret, but I don't have excuses. She looked away, throat tightening. I missed everything. I let my ambition eat up the years like they were nothing, and I told myself you were probably better off. I convinced myself that staying away was cleaner than showing up late. You were wrong, she said quietly. I know. She took a breath, slow and trembling. Do you even know what those early days were like? He shook his head. No. I don't. I was 29, alone, no partner. No plan. 2 heartbeats inside me and no one to tell. I worked 2 jobs. I threw up in parking lots and cried myself to sleep. I was terrified. His eyes were glassy now. I'm so sorry. You don't get to fix that. I'm not trying to, he said. I just want to be the man they need now. The one you needed back then. A tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't brush it away. I don't trust easy, Cole. Not anymore. I don't blame you. I won't let them get hurt. I'd never ask you to. Silence folded over them again, but this time it felt less sharp, less defensive. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, creased paper. What's that? She asked, wiping her eyes. It's something Aiden drew yesterday. Left it in the back of my rental car. She took it, unfolding it slowly. It was a crayon sketch. A stick figure man with spiky brown hair standing beside 2 boys. A heart above them. She stared at it. Cole spoke again. He told me I looked like a tree. Strong but not too scary. Eleanor laughed through her tears. A sound so raw it broke them both. I can't promise you anything beyond today, she said at last. That's all I'm asking for. They sat there, in that little coastal cafe, while the rain finally came, soft and steady against the windows. A beginning, not loud or dramatic, but real, quietly, unmistakably real. The rain lingered through the afternoon, soft and rhythmic, tapping like fingertips against the windows of the villa. Inside, the boys were sprawled out on the living room rug, surrounded by colored pencils and open books. Aidan was carefully drawing a treasure map, with dotted lines and imaginary landmarks. Crab King's Cove and the Great Lemonade Lagoon. Leo was deep into building a cardboard fort, using shoeboxes and duct tape. Elena sat on the couch with a fleece blanket over her knees, a half-read novel open in her lap. She hadn't turned a page in over 20 minutes. Her mind was still back at the cafe. Still wrapped in the honesty of Cole's voice, the way his shoulders had sagged when he admitted he had no excuses. Still hearing the rain on the tin roof, that simple moment with the drawing he'd carried around like a talisman. She knew he meant it. She felt it, but that didn't make this easier. "Mom?" Aidan called from the floor. "What's the best name for an island full of jelly beans?" She blinked, then smiled faintly. "Sweet Tooth Bay?" Leo clapped. "That's perfect." Walt stepped in from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Dinner's in the oven, baked ziti. Don't act surprised," Elena chuckled. "You make the same 3 meals on rotation. And you still eat every bite," he replied, winking. The front door knocked. All 3 of them froze for a beat. Elena stood, gently moving the blanket aside. When she opened the door, Cole stood on the porch, damp from the rain but grinning. "I come bearing gifts," he said, holding up a paper bag and 2 to-go coffee cups. "And apologies if this is too soon." Walt appeared behind Elena, arms crossed like a protective gatekeeper. Cole nodded respectfully. "Evening, Walt." "Evening." They stood in silence for a moment. "I brought the boys some art supplies," Cole continued, holding out the bag. "I figured if I'm going to win them over, I need to support their infrastructure." Walt grunted. "They'll put you to work in that fort, you know." "I'm ready." Elena looked back at her boys, who were now peeking around the couch, whispering loudly and elbowing each other. She stepped aside slowly. "You can come in, for a little while." Cole entered with a quiet reverence, like the air inside held more weight than he expected. Leo was the first to break the tension. "Did you bring snacks?" Cole laughed. "No snacks. Just paint markers and stencils." "Better than snacks," Aidan said, already crawling toward the bag. They unpacked the supplies on the floor, the boys oohing over glitter pens like they were rare jewels. Cole knelt beside them, not trying too hard, not hovering, just being there. Elena watched from the couch. Walt watched her. "You're letting him in," he said softly. "I know. He's not forcing the door." She nodded. After dinner, which turned into a casual, laughter-filled affair around the small kitchen table, the boys begged for a movie. Elena said yes, even though it was past bedtime. They piled onto the couch, Walt in the recliner, the boys between Cole and Elena, the fort looming proudly beside them. The movie was an animated one. Pirates, treasure, and talking sea turtles. But Elena barely followed the plot. Her awareness was tuned to the space between her and Cole. How his presence had shifted the rhythm of the evening. Not in a bad way. Not at all. Halfway through, Leo's head drooped onto Cole's arm. Cole looked down, still as stone, like the moment might shatter if he moved. Elena's voice was soft. "He does that when he's comfortable." Cole's eyes flicked up to hers. This is the first time I've ever held one of them. Even like this. She swallowed hard. Aidan yawned, leaned toward her shoulder. And suddenly, the four of them sat together in a bubble of warmth and quiet, a picture that didn't feel posed or temporary. When the movie ended, Eleanor stood slowly, stretching. Time for bed, guys. The boys groaned but didn't protest too much. She led them down the hallway, brushed their teeth, tucked them into their twin beds, and kissed their foreheads. When she returned to the living room, Walt was gone. Only Cole remained, standing near the bookshelves, hands in his pockets. "Thank you," he said, "for today." Elena nodded. "You were good with them. They make it easy." She looked at him for a long moment, then walked toward the door. Cole followed. Rain still misted the air. The porch light cast a soft golden glow on the damp steps. Elena crossed her arms and leaned against the doorframe. "They'll ask soon," she said, "who you really are. I'm ready. And if I say not yet—" He hesitated, then said, "Then I wait." She looked down, her voice a whisper. "You're making it hard to keep you out." His tone matched hers. "I'm not trying to break in. Just hoping you'll leave the door open a little longer." A beat of silence passed. Then she said, almost to herself, "You're not who you were." He stepped down onto the path, paused, then looked back at her. Rain clung to his hair, his shoulders. "Neither are you." And with that, he walked away, slowly, deliberately, like he trusted the ground to still be there tomorrow. Elena watched him go until the mist swallowed him up. And for the first time in years, the quiet didn't feel empty. It felt full of possibility. The following morning, the sun returned, brilliant and golden, drying up the last traces of yesterday's rain. Tybee Island glowed again, like the storm had been rinsed away, leaving everything fresh, except for the weight still pressing gently on Elena's chest. She stood at the kitchen sink, washing out the boys' cereal bowls, her fingers moving by memory. The hum of cartoons played from the living room. The twins were sprawled on the floor again, arguing over who would be the captain of their make-believe sea expedition. "Captain's got to know how to steer," Aidan declared, hands on his hips. "I do know," Leo huffed. "You just don't like how I steer." Elena smiled softly to herself. Their little world was untouched for now. Safe. But how long could that last? She turned as Walt walked in from the porch, the morning paper in hand, a fresh breeze following him. He didn't speak at first, just handed her the front page. There it was, a new photo. Sharper, zoomed in. "Tybee mystery. Deepens. Are these Cole Hartman's sons?" Her breath caught. It was a side profile shot, Aidan and Leo chasing each other across the beach, their laughter frozen mid-frame. The angle made it impossible to deny. Their resemblance to Cole was clearer than ever. "They're getting closer," Walt said gently. Eleanor leaned against the counter, the paper crumpling in her hands. "I was naive to think we had time." "You had hope," Walt corrected. The doorbell rang. Elena stiffened, her eyes shooting to the hallway where the boys still played. "I'll get it," Walt said, already moving. She followed, heart hammering, ready to intercept, to shield, to run if she had to. But it wasn't a reporter. It was Cole. Holding 2 grocery bags and looking like he'd just walked through a minefield. "I came early," he said quickly. "I know I should have called." Walt glanced at Elena, then back at Cole. "Come on in, but you might want to see this." He handed him the paper. Cole took one look and stopped breathing. Eleanor watched as the realization settled on his face, slowly at first, then with crushing clarity. They've been photographed, she said, her voice low, identified by people who have no right to them. Cole stepped inside. Let me fix it. There's nothing to fix, she said, tension rising. You can't sweep this with a press release. This isn't damage control. These are my children. Cole's jaw tensed. They're our children. Walt stepped back quietly, giving them space. Eleanor didn't blink. Don't claim them with words. Claim them with action. Cole set the bags on the table slowly. Then tell me what you want me to do. She opened her mouth, but stopped. Because she didn't know. The instinct to protect, to pull away, was loud, but something deeper, more complicated, was trying to speak beneath it. I want them off the radar, she said finally. No interviews, no acknowledgement. No statements. Cole nodded. Done. I want your people to stop looking into this like it's a crisis to be managed. They already have. And I want to know what you want, she added, almost surprising herself. Not the CEO. Not the fixer, just you. He met her eyes. I want to build something that's real, he said. Not overnight, not to rewrite the past, but maybe to earn a future. Elena stared at him. I don't know how to let someone else share this, she whispered. I've done every meal, every fever, every school pickup alone. I'm not asking to replace that, Cole said. I'm asking to be part of what comes next. Silence stretched between them. Then Leo's voice called out from the living room. Mom! Cole! Come see our fort. We made a second floor. Elena glanced toward the hallway, then back at Cole. You want real? She asked. Then go upstairs, step into cardboard chaos, get glitter on your shoes. And if you survive the war over snack rights, we'll talk about what comes next. A slow smile tugged at his lips. That's the deal? That's the deal. He followed the sounds of squealing children, vanishing into the world she'd built without him, but was now slowly, uncertainly, beginning to open. Elena exhaled and leaned against the wall. Walt joined her again, arms crossed. You're letting him see the second floor, he said quietly. I'm not promising he gets to stay there. Walt's eyes softened. But you're letting him climb. She looked down the hallway again, where laughter had overtaken the sound of the TV. Then she nodded, just once. Yeah. I'm letting him climb. The sky had shifted to a muted lavender by the time Elena stepped out onto the back porch, hands wrapped around a steaming mug of chamomile tea. The boys were finally in bed after an evening of cardboard fort expansions, peanut butter fingerprints, and negotiations over which stuffed animals could sleep in which corners of the second floor wing. And Cole, he'd stayed through it all. Silent in the chaos at first, then slowly becoming part of it, helping Aiden engineer a pulley system for snack deliveries and letting Leo draw warrior stripes on his arms with washable markers. He never once checked his phone, not even when it buzzed repeatedly in his jacket pocket. Now, as the crickets began to hum and the salt air rolled in thick and sweet, Eleanor let herself breathe again, alone. Almost. Footsteps approached behind her. I thought you left, she said without turning. I was going to, Cole said, his voice lower in the quiet night. But I saw your light out here. She didn't respond, but she didn't send him away either. He stepped beside her, leaning lightly on the railing, his sleeves rolled to the elbows, the marker streaks still faint on his forearms. They exhaust me, he said softly. In the best possible way. They do that, she murmured, a hint of a smile curling at the edge of her lips. They stood in silence for a moment, the kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, but full, like the space is holding something too delicate to name. Then she asked, "What happened to your phone today?" He hesitated, then reached into his pocket and handed it to her. 37 missed calls, he said, mostly from board members. One from my mother. Several from a man who's either my lawyer or my therapist. I stopped keeping track. She raised an eyebrow. And you ignored them. I powered it off for a while. They'll live. That's not like you. No, he admitted. But then again, I don't think I want to be who I was. Eleanor set the mug down, folding her arms. What do they want? Damage control. Interviews. A strategy to spin the narrative. And your plan? He looked at her, firm. To stay here. Her chest tightened. I'm supposed to fly back tomorrow, he added, but I'm cancelling it. I already told the office I need more time. To do what? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. To learn what it means to show up, he said. To help Aiden tie his shoes without making them too tight. To figure out Leo's bedtime stories without mixing up the characters. To sit at a porch railing and earn a look like the one you're giving me now. She turned away quickly, but he caught the faintest shake of her shoulders. Elena, I'm scared, she whispered, her voice cracking. Not of you hurting me. I've lived through that. I've healed from it. I'm scared you'll make them love you, and then life will pull you away again. He stepped closer, not touching her, just near enough that she could feel the steadiness of his breath. I'm scared too, he said quietly. I've never had anything in my life that couldn't be bought or scheduled, and now I'm standing here, praying that 2 7-year-olds decide I'm worth the risk. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with a raw mix of anger and longing, and something even deeper. Grief, maybe. Grief for the time they'd lost. The pictures they'd never taken. The birthdays celebrated, with only half of the family present. I don't need a partner who flies in for the holidays, she said. I need someone who's here when the washing machine floods, and Leo's got a fever, and Aiden's math homework makes me want to cry. Then let me stay, he said. Not as a guest. Not as a visitor. Let me earn a place in their story. She searched his face, looking for the old cracks, the weak spots. But they weren't there, not in the same way. He still had the same jawline, the same ambition burning behind his eyes. But it was tempered now, softened by something real. They asked about you tonight, she said. What did you tell them? That you were learning, she replied, and that sometimes grown-ups need time to become who they were always supposed to be. His voice caught. What did they say? They said they hope you're done learning by the time school starts. Cole laughed quietly, rubbing the back of his neck. No pressure. Elena took a deep breath and reached into her back pocket, pulling out a small folded paper. I printed this earlier, she said, handing it to him. It's the boys' school calendar for the fall, field trips, teacher work days, snack duty sign-ups. He took it like it was sacred. Are you saying? I'm saying we'll try this, she said, but only if you show up when it's hard. Not just when it's sweet and quiet. He nodded, eyes locked on hers. I will. She stepped back, just slightly. You'll sleep at the inn? Not here. Of course. And no big gestures, no promises. Just presence, he said, repeating her words from the dock. The corners of her mouth twitched. He started toward the steps, then paused. One more thing. She turned. I saw how you looked at me tonight, he said softly. Like maybe, just maybe, you missed me too. She opened her mouth, but no words came. And he didn't wait for them. He just walked off into the warm night air, paper calendar in hand, hope in his stride. Elena stood alone on the porch, arms wrapped around herself, the memory of him still clinging to the quiet. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like the only adult holding up the weight of her world. It was the sound of the phone that broke the morning stillness, sharp, persistent, slicing through the low hum of the coffee maker and the quiet rustling of cereal boxes. Elena glanced toward the counter, heart tightening before she even saw the screen. Unknown number. Her breath caught. Not again. She ignored it. The boys were in the next room, setting up their space launch in the hallway with couch cushions and empty paper towel rolls. She needed normalcy this morning, just a few more hours of peace. But the knock came before she even set her coffee down. 3 sharp taps. She opened the door slowly, prepared for anything. Another reporter, a delivery, maybe even her neighbor returning a pie dish. But it was Cole. And this time, his face wasn't calm. "Elena," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We need to talk." Her stomach dropped. What happened? He glanced behind her, eyes catching the twins mid-liftoff in the hallway, then back to her with a mix of apology and urgency. "Can we go somewhere private?" Walt stepped out onto the porch behind her, sensing the shift in air like he always did. Elena nodded to him once, and he gave a small nod back. "I'll keep the astronauts occupied." She stepped outside, closing the door behind her, crossing her arms against the morning chill that had nothing to do with the weather. "Talk." Cole exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck like it was holding tension he hadn't had time to name yet. "I got a call this morning, from a producer in LA. A news special, national." Her spine stiffened. "They're planning a segment." "About us." She didn't speak. "They're spinning it like a human interest story," he continued. "CEO discovers secret children at small-town wedding. They want to make it heartwarming. Uplifting, but it's exposure, big exposure." Her throat tightened. "And you're just telling me this now?" "I didn't know until an hour ago," he said quickly. "I told them no. Shut it down. I threatened legal action, but Elena, someone's feeding them details." The air between them stretched thin. "No one here would do that," she said, her voice sharp with protectiveness. "Not Walt, not Gracie, not anyone from the island." "I know," he said. "But someone from my world might have. Someone who still sees this as leverage." Elena felt like the ground shifted beneath her. "I can't let them near the boys," she said. "I can't go through another circus." "You won't," he said firmly. "I'll take care of it. But—" She looked up at him, dread forming in her chest. "But what?" "They might run it anyway," he said. "With or without my consent. They have enough breadcrumbs to make it compelling. Photos, speculation, a timeline. And they want an angle." Elena's voice shook. "What kind of angle?" Cole looked away for a long moment, then back at her, guilt etched into every line on his face. "They want an interview. With you. A sit-down. On your terms. Tell your version before someone else does." She laughed bitterly, the sound scraping her throat. "They want me to sell my truth before they steal it?" "I would never ask you to," he said quickly. "Never. But I needed to be honest. It's coming, and I'm scared, Elena. Because if this doesn't go the right way, it could follow the boys for the rest of their lives." Her eyes shimmered. "Then why did you come back? Why did you start this if you knew it would end like this?" He stepped closer, not touching her, just close enough for her to feel the weight of his regret. Because for the first time in my life, I found something I wasn't willing to lose. Elena turned away, arms tightening around herself, the words cracking something open inside her. I don't know how to protect them from a world that wants to use them, she whispered. They're just kids. They still believe pirates are real and crayons can fix anything. Cole's voice was low. Let me be your shield. Let me stand between them and everything that's trying to twist this. I don't need a hero, she said, wiping a tear from her cheek. I need someone who won't walk away when it gets ugly. I'm here, he said, even when it gets ugly. A long silence settled. Then Elena looked at him, her eyes steady, sharp with something new. Then you'll stand beside me, she said. If the story runs, we'll face it together. But we do it on my terms. He nodded. Yes. I'll protect the boys first. Always. Me too. She took a breath, and when she spoke again, it was stronger. I'll write a statement. No interviews, no cameras, just the truth. In my own words. Cole's eyes held hers, pride and pain woven together. Then we let the world read it, he said. And we remind them who the story really belongs to. And for the first time in weeks, Eleanor felt something shift. Not fear. Not resistance, power, her voice. She wasn't just protecting her family anymore. She was claiming it. The sun crept through the window blinds in faint golden streaks as Elena sat at the kitchen table, her laptop open, untouched coffee cooling beside her. The cursor blinked steadily at the top of the blank document. Every time she typed a sentence, she erased it. Her fingers hovered, ready, but her heart wasn't. It wasn't just about writing a statement. It was about laying bare the parts of herself she'd protected for 7 years. About choosing to tell her story before someone else shaped it into something unrecognizable. She was scared. Scared of being misunderstood, of her boys being judged, of turning something sacred into something consumable. The front door creaked open, followed by soft footsteps. I brought muffins, Cole said, his voice tentative, hopeful. Elena didn't look up. What kind? Blueberry, and one of those weird lemon ones you pretend not to like but always eat anyway. She smirked in spite of herself. You remember that? I remember everything now, he said, stepping closer. He set the brown paper bag on the table, then slowly lowered himself into the chair across from her. You haven't started, he said gently. No, that's okay. I don't know how to begin. Just say what's true, he offered. Start with that. She looked at him, really looked. His hair was tousled, his shirt half untucked, a smudge of marker still faintly on his wrist. He looked like a man who'd stayed up all night thinking about what mattered, and who woke up knowing he still had work to do. I don't want them to be a headline, she said quietly. I want them to have a life. A quiet, boring, joyful life. Then we make sure this isn't about drama, he said. It's about clarity, about telling the world that they're not a mistake. They're a miracle. Elena's eyes filled. Cole leaned forward. You write it? I'll stand by it. And then we shut the door again. We go back to puzzles and bake sales and Saturday cartoons. She nodded, wiping a tear from the corner of her eye. I don't want sympathy, she whispered. You'll get respect, he said, because your voice is strong. She stared at the blinking cursor again. Then slowly, she began to type. 7 years ago, I became a mother to 2 boys who changed everything about who I thought I was. Their father wasn't part of the picture, and I raised them on my own, with the help of a small town, that wrapped itself around us like a safety net. I never expected him to come back, and when he did, I didn't know what to do. But here's what I've learned. Cole watched her fingers fly, the rhythm uneven but steady. Words spilled from her like a dam finally opened, not perfect, not polished, but real, honest. When she finished the first page, she sat back and exhaled, like she'd been holding her breath since the day he walked back into her life. "I'm not done," she said. "No," Cole agreed. "But you've started." She turned to him. "What happens after this, when it goes out?" "We live," he said simply. "We go on. Maybe people talk for a while, maybe they don't. But we hold steady. For them." She nodded slowly. "We tell them?" "We tell them everything they're ready to hear, when they're ready to hear it." Elena pushed the laptop toward the center of the table and stood. "Come with me." He followed her to the boys' room. The twins were tangled in blankets, soft snores and slow breathing filling the dim space. She knelt beside Aiden's bed and gently brushed a curl from his forehead. "They love you," she said, without looking back. Cole's voice caught. "I love them too. They'll need consistency, not just weekends, not just birthdays. You'll have it. And me?" He hesitated, then stepped closer. "You're the reason I came back. You're the reason I'm still here." Elena looked up, eyes glistening in the shadows. "Then be here. Every morning, every spill, every school call and science fair and scraped knee. Be here when it's not romantic, when it's not pretty." "I'm not looking for pretty," he whispered. "I'm looking for real." She stood, facing him now, inches apart. "Then prove it, day by day." "I will." The stillness between them shifted, something tender threading through the tension. Not resolution. Not yet. But the beginning of trust, earned, not promised. As they turned to leave the room, Leo stirred and murmured, "Dad?" Cole froze. Elena's heart skipped. He walked back to the bed, knelt gently, and whispered, "I'm here, buddy. Go back to sleep." Leo's hand reached out, small and warm, wrapping around his. And just like that, a bond formed in the dark, not through grand speeches, but through presence. The following week passed in soft but steady rhythm. School drop-offs, grilled cheese lunches, bedtime routines, and quiet walks down Tybie's shoreline. It was the kind of life Elena had built slowly, year by year, brick by brick. The difference now was that Cole had started placing bricks beside her. It was subtle at first. He helped with morning pancakes, though he always burned the first batch. He read bedtime stories with too many voices, and never the same accent twice. He sat through Aiden's parent-teacher meeting like it was a board presentation, scribbling notes, asking about curriculum like he was preparing for a merger. But the boys adored him, not for who he used to be, for who he was becoming. And Elena, she noticed. Late one night, after the house had gone still, she stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the porch light flicker. Cole had stayed late helping Leo with his science fair volcano. It hadn't worked, but Leo declared it a success anyway, because it looked cool when it exploded wrong. She heard the soft creak of the door and turned as Cole stepped into the kitchen, quietly placing a now empty tray of cooled lava rocks on the counter. "I think I'm more exhausted than Leo," he whispered. "He's still talking about it," Elena said with a small smile. "You're a hit." Cole leaned on the counter. "It feels good, being part of something that doesn't vanish when the day ends." She met his eyes, but didn't respond. He took a breath. The article went out this morning. The official statement. Elena's heart clenched. And? It's already trending. Mostly supportive comments. A few trolls, but nothing we didn't expect. Did the boys see it? No. I locked down the family iPad just in case. Thank you. He hesitated, then added, There's something else. She tensed again, ready for another wave. I got a call this afternoon. The board wants me back in the city. They're offering me the role of executive chair. Her stomach dropped. That's bigger than CEO. It is. She nodded slowly. And? I turned it down. Elena blinked. You... what? He moved closer, his voice softer. I told them if they wanted someone married to the business, they'd have to find someone else. I'm not going back to being that man. You didn't have to do that for me. I didn't do it for you, he said. I did it for me. Because the most important boardroom I've ever sat in is your kitchen table. Because Leo's science fair and Aiden's spelling test, and the way you stare out that window like you're afraid it might all disappear. That's my boardroom now. Emotion welled up in her throat. She looked down, fighting it, but it was already rising. I don't want to be a detour in your redemption arc, she said quietly. I don't want to be the woman who helps you change and then watches you walk away better for someone else. You're not a detour, he said, stepping closer. You're the destination. Her walls wavered, but habit made her ask, And what if things get hard again? They will, he said without hesitation. But I'm not leaving, even when the volcano doesn't erupt right. Even when dinner's just cereal. Even when you need space, and I don't know how to give it. She studied him. The man who once ruled rooms in tailored suits now stood in front of her in a wrinkled t-shirt with a crusted trail of school glue on his elbow. And she'd never trusted his words more. Still, she whispered, This can't just be about the boys. It's not, he said. It's about you. Us. Me realizing that love isn't a grand gesture, it's showing up when no one's watching. She swallowed hard. You sound sure. I've never been surer of anything. She stepped closer, almost without realizing. The air between them charged. Not with fantasy, but with truth. With the hard-earned, slow-building kind of intimacy that comes when two people choose to stay in the room, even when the lights go dim. A pause, a breath, a heartbeat. Then Cole reached out, gently, just brushing her hand with his. I'm not asking for forever, he said. I'm asking for today. And if I earn it, I'll ask again tomorrow. And this time, Elena didn't pull away. She let her fingers wrap around his. She didn't say yes. She didn't need to. The smell of vanilla pancakes drifted through the house, warm and inviting, as sunlight spilled in through the kitchen windows. Elena flipped the last one onto a plate, setting it on the table beside bowls of strawberries and a small vase of beach daisies the boys had picked from the yard. Leo came running in barefoot, arms flapping. Cole said if I beat him at breakfast speed eating, he'll let me paint his face like a tiger. Again? Elena asked, trying not to laugh. Aiden followed, carrying a paper crown made from construction paper and tape. He's the king of the jungle now. Sounds like he's been overthrown, Elena teased. Cole walked in behind them, rubbing his stomach and looking thoroughly defeated. I underestimated their commitment to syrup. Elena handed him a mug of coffee. Their fingers brushed, and for a second, they just looked at each other, something unspoken passing between them. No need for big declarations, not now. They were finding a rhythm. As the boys dug into breakfast, Elena pulled Cole aside near the sink. "I talked to Gracie last night," she said. Cole raised a brow. "And?" "She said the church is hosting a fall festival next weekend. There's going to be games, hay rides, and a pie contest." He smiled. "You thinking of entering?" "I'm thinking of bringing you." Cole's smile faded, just slightly. "In public?" "In the open," she said softly. "With the boys." "With me." Cole studied her. "Are you sure?" "I'm tired of hiding what already belongs to us." He touched her arm gently. "Then I'll be there. I'll even eat the pie, even if it's the weird lemon kind." She rolled her eyes, but her smile lingered. Later that afternoon, as they all sat on the front steps licking melting popsicles, a breeze swept through the porch, rustling the paper crown now perched lopsided on Cole's head. Leo poked at his knee. "When are you moving in for real?" Cole hesitated. "That's a big question, buddy." Aiden chimed in. "Does it mean you'll be here every morning, even for Mondays?" "I hope so," Cole said. "But we're still figuring out how to build that together." Eleanor looked at him, her heart clenching a little at the honesty in his voice. "It's like our fort," Leo offered. "You have to tape the boxes real good, or it falls over." Cole nodded. "Exactly. Real strong tape." Elena laughed quietly. "Well, we've got plenty of tape." That night, after the boys had collapsed into bed, sugar highs faded and giggles finally quieted, Cole lingered on the porch while Elena stood inside, staring out at him through the screen door. She stepped out slowly, arms crossed loosely, watching the moon cast a glow over the yard. "They adore you," she said. "I adore them," he replied, not missing a beat. She took a seat beside him on the swing. They swayed in silence for a moment. "Sometimes," she began, "I still wake up and feel like I'm bracing for the next blow. Like peace isn't something I get to hold." "I know," he said. "But what if this time it is?" Eleanor turned her head to look at him. "What if you wake up and decide this is too quiet?" "Too slow?" "Then I'll adjust my pace," he said, "because I'd rather walk beside you here than run alone anywhere else." Her eyes misted. "I used to pray for someone who'd just stay." "That was it. No fireworks, just stay." He reached for her hand. "Then I'll stay, as long as you'll let me." They sat there, fingers intertwined, the island night wrapping around them in stillness. And though neither of them said it out loud, they both felt it. Love doesn't always return with a grand entrance. Sometimes it knocks on your door with a paper crown, a syrup-stained t-shirt, and a promise to keep showing up. Every single day. The fall festival arrived with the scent of cinnamon in the air, and the sound of laughter drifting from the churchyard across the street. The town had pulled out all the stops, hay bales stacked in pyramid towers, hand-painted signs for apple bobbing and sack races, and a long table covered in pies that shimmered with sugar crusts under the late afternoon sun. Elena stood near the edge of it all, her arms wrapped loosely around her waist as she watched Aiden and Leo race toward the pumpkin painting station, their voices blending with the chatter of neighbors and the buzz of a small-town crowd, excited for something familiar and sweet. Cole stood beside her. Not behind her, not hovering, just beside her. "You sure you're ready for this many people?" he asked, adjusting the flannel sleeves rolled up to his elbows. She didn't answer right away. Then, slowly, she turned to him. "I'm not sure of anything, but I know I'm not hiding anymore." He smiled, proud but quiet. "They already love you." "You know that, right?" "It's not about that," she said, her voice soft but sure. It's about standing in the light, even if it's messy, even if people stare. They're staring because you're luminous, she snorted. Luminous? I read a thesaurus this morning, he said deadpan. Thought it might help. She laughed, but then reached for his hand. Not a dramatic move. Not a performance. Just the real kind of gesture people do when they feel safe. He squeezed her fingers once. You're braver than anyone I know. The boys returned moments later, hands covered in orange paint, Leo holding up a pumpkin with a green triangle nose, and what might have been bat wings on either side. Cole clapped like it was the Mona Lisa. Incredible. I see your vision. Leo grinned. It's a dragon, breathing glitter. Obviously. Walt wandered over with 2 cups of cider, handing one to Elena and ruffling Aiden's hair with the other. Good crowd, he said. And you managed to avoid the gossip table. Impressive. I came close, Elena said. Someone asked if the boys were Cole's. I said they were mine. Walt chuckled. That'll stir 'em up for a few weeks. Let 'em stir, she said, sipping her cider. We're finally living, not explaining. The sky began shifting into the golden hour, casting long, honeyed shadows across the field. Someone from the church announced the start of the 3-legged race, and the twins bolted toward the line, dragging Cole with them. I believe in you, Eleanor called, laughing as Cole stumbled into the grass, trying to tie his ankle to Leo's. Walt leaned in. You ever think you'd see him like this? Eleanor shook her head. I never thought I'd feel this. Later, after the race ended in hilarious disaster, Leo blaming Cole for having 2 big legs. They all settled on a picnic blanket near the edge of the field. The stars were beginning to pop into view, the lights strung between trees twinkling like a second sky. Aiden curled into Eleanor's side. Is Cole staying forever? Elena looked at him. Then over to Cole, who was lying back in the grass, arms behind his head, a kid's paper crown askew on his brow again. I think forever is a big word, she said softly. But he's here today. And that's what matters. Leo climbed into Cole's lap and yawned. You're warm like a heater. Cole laughed quietly, pulling the blanket around him. Best review I've ever gotten. The moment settled like dust after a storm. Quiet, undisturbed, true. Gracie appeared, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Elena, they just announced the pie contest winners. Guess who got second? Elena blinked. You're kidding. Nope. Gracie held up a ribbon. Your lemon chess beat out 5 pecans and a cherry crumble. Cole sat up. Wait, you entered the weird lemon pie? Eleanor raised an eyebrow. I told you it's a classic. He reached for the ribbon. We're framing this. You're ridiculous. I'm ridiculous about you. She didn't answer, but the look in her eyes was more than enough. The night stretched gently around them. Music played faintly from someone's speaker. Kids chased fireflies between the tables, and the warmth of home pulsed through the breeze like a steady drumbeat. Elena looked around at the scene. The boys, Cole, Gracie, Walt, the church steeple lit by string lights, and let the moment sink deep into her bones. This wasn't the life she'd planned. It wasn't polished or perfect or anything you'd see in a magazine, but it was theirs. Messy, earned, sacred. She leaned her head on Cole's shoulder, eyes on the stars. I used to think life broke me, she said, but maybe it just cracked me open. So the good stuff could get in. He kissed her hair softly. Then this must be the good stuff. She nodded. Yeah. This is the good stuff. And they sat there, wrapped in blanket and moonlight and second chances, as the world turned quietly around them, finally, together. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1 to let me know. If not, comment 2. Your thought matter to me either way.